Ethan dropped from the sky with precision, his body moving faster than a streak of lightning as he hovered silently above the warehouse roof. His eyes scanned the surroundings, enhanced by the tech in his mask, detecting the guards and their patrol routes below. The night air rushed past him, but he remained perfectly still, calculating every movement with a detective's sharp eye. "Sarah, I'm on the roof," he whispered into the calm. "I need an entry point." "Got it," Sarah replied. "There's a maintenance hatch on the eastern side, past the third ventilation unit. It's rigged with sensors, but you can disable them quickly. Just be careful." Ethan moved in a blur, reaching the hatch in seconds. With a precise touch, he summoned a small device made of glowing blue quantum energy, using it to bypass the security system. The hatch opened with a soft click, and he slipped inside, landing quietly on the metal catwalk below. The interior of the warehouse was dim, filled with shadows and obstacles that could hinder most people. But Ethan's senses were razor-sharp, and he moved through the darkness as if he were one with it. His eyes, enhanced by the mask's vision, highlighted the guards' patrol routes, and he anticipated their every move, keeping himself hidden as he navigated through the maze of crates and machinery. "The shielded room is ahead," Sarah's voice came through. "It's down the main corridor. I've looped the cameras temporarily, but you've only got a couple of minutes." "Copy that," Ethan responded as he moved. In a flash, he zoomed down the corridor, his speed unmatched, making it impossible for the guards to spot him. He reached the door to the shielded room, its heavy locks and energy barrier no match for his quantum abilities. With a thought, he summoned a quantum tool, its energy glowing brightly as it interfaced with the door's security panel. Within moments, the locks disengaged, and the barrier dissipated. Inside, the room was stark, its cold white lights reflecting off metal surfaces. A woman sat shackled in the center, fear etched on her face. Ethan approached her quickly, his demeanor calm and reassuring. "Miss Mitchell," he said softly, "I'm here to get you out." Her eyes widened, a mix of hope and fear. "My name is Susan, who are you?" "I'm the Quantum Guardian. I promise, you're safe now." With a simple gesture, he summoned a quantum blade that sliced through the restraints effortlessly. He lifted her to her feet, and they made their way back to the corridor. "Sarah, I've got her." "What's our exit?" "The west corridor leads to a loading bay. Take the service door there." "I've got their patrols distracted, but you need to hurry." Ethan moved like a shadow, guiding the woman swiftly. His speed kept them ahead of any guards, and they reached the service door undetected. Just as they approached, a guard rounded the corner, spotting them. "Hey!" the guard shouted, raising his weapon. With a flick of his hand, Ethan summoned a quantum shield, deflecting the blast and disarming the guard in an instant. Before the guard could react further, Ethan launched forward, delivering a swift, precise strike that knocked him out cold. "Let's go," he urged, leading the woman through the door and into the night air. The cool breeze hit them as they stepped out into the alley. Ethan glanced around, making sure the path was clear. "Hold on to me." She hesitated for only a second before nodding. Ethan wrapped his arm around her and lifted off the ground, rocketing into the sky with the power and speed of a comet. They soared above the city, the lights blurring beneath them as he flew with unmatched speed and control. "Sarah, we're airborne," he reported, heading back to Quantum Core. "Good work, Guardian. I've scrambled the feeds, but you need to get her to safety fast. Echelon Dynamics will realize what happened soon." Ethan's expression was determined. "We're almost there." Ethan descended from the sky like a bolt of lightning, his wings of glowing blue energy trailing in his wake. The city's lights reflected off the rain-slicked rooftop of Quantum Core, where Mr. Lennox and Dr. Mitchell stood waiting, their eyes scanning the skyline anxiously. The wind whipped around them, carrying the distant sounds of the bustling city below. Ethan landed silently, his wings retracting as he set down Dr. Mitchell's wife with care. The energy around him flickered, casting an ethereal glow in the darkness. Mr. Lennox stepped forward, concern etched on his face as he looked at the Susan. "Is she all right?" Ethan nodded, his eyes scanning the cityscape. "She's safe. We got her out before Echelon's goons could react, but they'll realize she's gone soon enough." Dr. Mitchell rushed to his wife's side, relief and fear mixed on his face as he pulled her into an embrace. "Thank you, Quantum Guardian. I don't know how to repay you." Ethan offered a reassuring nod. "We're not done yet, Doctor. Echelon Dynamics knows she's been taken. It's only a matter of time before they retaliate." Mr. Lennox's expression darkened as he folded his arms. "This means war. The General won't let this slide, he'll double down. We need to be ready for what's coming." Before Ethan could respond, Sarah's voice came through his earpiece. "Guardian, I'm picking up multiple heat signatures moving toward your location. Echelon's reinforcements are mobilizing." Ethan's eyes narrowed as he turned to Mr. Lennox. "Get her inside. I'll hold them off." Mr. Lennox hesitated. "You can't take them all on by yourself." Ethan's expression was steady. "I'm not alone. I've got someone helping me." With a flick of his wrist, he summoned a staff made of pure quantum energy, its glow illuminating the rooftop. "Now go. Protect her." As Dr. Mitchell led his wife inside, Ethan spoke quietly into his calm. "Thanks for the heads up, Sarah. Actually, you're calling me Oracle now." She replied, a smile in her voice. "Oracle?" Ethan asked, raising an eyebrow. "Since when?" "Since you decided to be all secretive with your identity." She shot back. "If you get to have one, then so do I." Ethan smirked, appreciating her quick thinking. "Fair enough. Oracle it is." He then straightened, his voice shifting into its calm, focused tone. "All right, Oracle, give me the rundown. How many are there?" "At least a dozen," she said. "They're splitting into squads and trying to surround the building." Ethan's eyes flashed with determination. Time to show them what they're up against. He shot forward, a blur of light and speed, descending on the first squad before they had time to react. He hit the ground like a thunderclap, his quantum staff spinning as he knocked the first soldier aside. Another soldier raised his weapon, but Ethan's speed was unmatched. In an instant, he disarmed the man and flipped him into a wall. Two more soldiers rushed in, their boots pounding against the concrete. Ethan summoned a shield from his quantum energy, blocking their gunfire. With a burst of speed, he swept their legs out from under them, sending a shockwave through the ground that left them unconscious. 4 down, 8 to go, he muttered. On a nearby rooftop, a sniper aimed his rifle at Ethan. Oracle's voice came through his earpiece, urgent. "Guardian, sniper, 3 o'clock, rooftop." Ethan didn't hesitate. He sprinted forward, scaling the wall in seconds. The sniper fired, but Ethan was already behind him, knocking the weapon aside before delivering a quick, precise blow that left the sniper unconscious. "Nice call, Oracle." "Just doing my job, Guardian," she replied with a hint of pride. "Heads up, more incoming." Ethan leaped down to the street as another squad approached. They opened fire, but his agility and speed allowed him to dodge effortlessly. With a burst of quantum energy, he summoned twin blades and launched himself at the soldiers. His strikes were swift and precise, disarming them with calculated movements designed to incapacitate without killing. The street became a whirlwind of motion, Ethan's blades cutting through the air as he moved with the precision of a master tactician. He fought with the speed and strength that only his abilities could provide, making quick work of the wave of Echelon soldiers. As the last soldier fell, Ethan paused, scanning the area. Clear for now, but this was just the first wave. Mr. Lennox's voice came through his calm. I've got Dr. Mitchell and his wife secured. We're ready to move to the safe house, but we need to act fast. Copy that. I'll cover your escape. Ethan took to the air again, his wings blazing as he hovered above the streets. He spotted a second squad approaching with heavier artillery. Oracle, I've got visual on a second wave. Heavier weapons this time. I need a distraction. Already on it, she said. Seconds later, a series of explosions erupted a few blocks away, Oracle's work, triggering remote charges. The soldiers turned toward the blasts, breaking their formation. Ethan grinned. Perfect. He dove down, moving at lightning speed. The ground blurred beneath him as he slammed into the squad, his fists striking like hammers. He hurled one soldier into another and used his wings to propel himself forward with every strike. In moments, the squad was neutralized. He flew back to the rooftop where Mr. Lennox and the others were waiting. It's clear. Let's move. The group hurried to the rooftop's edge, and Ethan summoned a quantum platform beneath them. Hold on, he said. The platform lifted into the air, carrying them away as Echelon's reinforcements swarmed the area. As they soared above the city, Mr. Lennox looked at Guardian, a mix of gratitude and respect in his eyes. You saved her, and you bought us time. We owe you. Ethan shook his head. We're a team, and this fight isn't over yet. He glanced down at the city below, watching Echelon's forces comb the area. This is just the beginning. We need to be ready for whatever the general throws at us next. Mr. Lennox nodded. We'll regroup and prepare. The Quantum Guardian isn't alone in this fight. As they flew through the night, the city's lights glittering beneath them, Ethan felt a surge of determination. This was his city, and he would protect it, no matter the cost. Bring it on, General. He muttered, eyes fixed on the horizon. I'll be ready. Ethan stood on the rooftop of the safe house, the city lights twinkling like stars against the night sky. The cold wind whipped around him, pulling at the edges of his suit as he took in the sprawling skyline. He had just ensured Mr. Lennox, Dr. Mitchell, and his wife, Susan, were safe inside, but the weight of everything that had happened that night hung over him. The adrenaline of the fight was fading, replaced by a deep, gnawing fatigue. He knew he had to be ready for whatever came next, but for now, the rooftop felt like the only place where he could catch his breath. As he stared out into the city, the familiar presence of Aurelia emerged from the shadows behind him. He didn't need to turn to know it was her. The air around him felt warmer, calmer. Aurelia. He greeted quietly, his voice carrying both relief and exhaustion. You always seem to know when to find me. Aurelia stepped into the moonlight, her face illuminated by the glow of the city. Her expression was a blend of concern and understanding, the wisdom of centuries evident in her eyes. You've had a long night, Ethan, she said softly. I came because I sensed your struggle. Ethan's shoulders tensed as he let out a sigh. It feels like I'm constantly fighting uphill. Every time I think I've got a grip on things, there's another threat, another twist. And tonight. He paused, frustration clear in his eyes. It was too close. Aurelia nodded, her eyes filled with sympathy. The burden you carry as the Quantum Guardian is heavy, but you are doing more than you realize. You protected lives tonight, and you made it through despite the odds. Ethan shook his head, his voice tinged with frustration. It doesn't feel like enough. Echelon Dynamics is always a step ahead. No matter what I do, they seem to anticipate it. He paused, his gaze dropping. And the general. Whatever he's planning, it's getting closer. Aurelia's hand rested on his shoulder, grounding him. Ethan, you faced incredible odds and emerged victorious, but you must understand, this isn't just a battle of strength. It's one of strategy and patience. The general and those manipulating him from the shadows are playing a long game. You can't let them dictate your every move. Ethan's brow furrowed. If it's not about strength, then what is it about? Every time I face them, they're prepared, and I'm constantly reacting instead of anticipating. Her gaze remained steady, filled with the depth of her experience. Being the quantum guardian means more than reacting to threats. It means seeing beyond the immediate dangers, understanding the bigger picture, and thinking like the detective you are. You possess the skills of a strategist, you need to trust them. He let out a breath, some of the tension easing. And what about Sarah? She knows what I'm going through, and she's been there for me, but I worry. I worry about dragging her deeper into this mess. Aurelia's eyes softened, and she smiled faintly. Sarah is strong and capable. She chose to stand by your side, knowing full well the risks. Don't underestimate her. But I understand your fear. Caring for someone so deeply makes you feel vulnerable. Ethan's expression softened. She's already in danger because of her investigations. I know she can handle herself, but what if something happens that I can't stop? What if I'm not fast enough? Aurelia's hand remained on his shoulder, a comforting weight. That's a fear all protectors face. But remember, you are not alone. Sarah is not a liability, she is your ally. The strength of a guardian lies not in standing alone, but in allowing others to share the burden. She paused, her eyes meeting his. You must trust her as she has trusted you. Ethan's eyes flickered with the conflict he felt. I know she's capable. And I do trust her. But every time I go out there, every time I face the general's soldiers, it feels like I'm risking everything. Aurelia nodded, understanding the weight of his words. You are, Ethan. But the people you protect, and the allies you've gained, they're worth that risk. You fight not just for the city, but for those you care about, and that makes you stronger than any power alone. He looked out at the city, the lights casting long shadows across his face. And what if I fail? Aurelia's expression remained calm, yet her voice carried the wisdom of countless lifetimes. Failure is inevitable. It's a part of the journey. But it's not about whether you fall, it's about whether you rise again. A true guardian finds strength not just in their victories, but in their ability to endure. He nodded slowly, feeling the truth in her words. I know. But it's hard sometimes. It feels like I'm fighting an enemy I can't see, and every time I get close, they slip through my fingers. Aurelia's eyes grew more intense. Echelon dynamics and the general are just pieces on the board. There are others, older and more powerful, who move those pieces. You must learn to see beyond the obvious threats and understand the forces at play. It's not just about power, it's about the balance of this world. Ethan's eyes met hers, the depth of her words sinking in. You've mentioned balance before. What does it really mean? The quantum energy you wield is connected to the fabric of reality itself. It's not just a weapon, Ethan, it's a bridge, a connection between worlds, and a means of maintaining equilibrium. Aurelia's voice was steady, her hand still on his shoulder. To truly harness it, you must feel that connection, understand it, and work with it, not against it. Ethan let her words sink in. And how do I do that? Aurelia's expression was warm but serious. You trust yourself. You trust those around you. And you listen to the energy, to the people you care about, and to the city itself. Answers will come when you open yourself to the possibilities beyond what you think you know. He felt a sense of clarity, though questions still lingered. I won't let the general or anyone else win. I'll fight for this city, for everyone I care about. Aurelia's eyes filled with pride. I know you will. But remember, Ethan, the path of a guardian is never meant to be walked alone. Sarah, Mr. Lennox, Dr. Mitchell, and even I, we are here to stand with you. Ethan watched her as the wind swept across the rooftop, her presence a calming anchor amidst the chaos. I won't forget that. And I won't face it alone. Aurelia smiled, the warmth of her expression lighting up the darkness. Good. Because the challenges ahead will test you, but I know you have the strength to face them." She turned to leave, her form blending into the shadows of the rooftop. "When the time comes, we will stand together." As she disappeared, her words echoed in his mind. Ethan stood alone, but for the first time, he felt a sense of resolve and purpose that was unshakable. He looked out over the city, feeling the energy flow through him, and knew that no matter what came next, he was ready. "Whatever happens," he whispered to the night, "I'll be ready." The general stood in the dimly lit operations room of Echelon Dynamics headquarters, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the aftermath of the Quantum Guardian's intervention. The screen displayed the facility in disarray, guards incapacitated, security systems breached, and the faint trail of blue light from the Guardian fading into the night. Nathan Cole stood beside him, his arms crossed, his expression tense as he watched the footage. Dressed in his tactical suit, he felt the pressure of the situation bearing down on him. Leonard Marshall, CEO of Echelon Dynamics, sat at the head of the long conference table, his fingers steepled as he observed the scene with a calculating gaze. The general's voice was low, laced with frustration. "He got away. The Quantum Guardian extracted Dr. Mitchell's wife right under our noses." Leonard's eyes flicked to the general, his tone calm but edged with irritation. "It was a calculated risk. We knew the Quantum Guardian would intervene, but we didn't anticipate the speed and precision of his response." Nathan clenched his jaw, his gaze still fixed on the screen. "He's getting faster and more strategic. It's like he's learning from every encounter, improving every time." The general slammed his fist on the console, causing the hologram to flicker. "We've allowed him too much freedom. This was supposed to be our trap, but he turned it into a rescue mission." Leonard leaned back, his eyes cold and calculating. "We may have lost this round, but we've learned something valuable. The Quantum Guardian's weakness is his need to protect others. He'll always react when innocent lives are at stake." Nathan's expression was neutral, but inside, doubt simmered. What's the price for exploiting that weakness? He wondered. How many people will get hurt if we use this plan? But he kept those thoughts to himself, knowing that any show of hesitation would be seen as a lack of commitment. Leonard continued, his tone steady and confident. "We don't need to know the location of their safe house. We create scenarios, manufactured crises, that will draw the Quantum Guardian out, forcing him to act." The general's expression shifted, a spark of interest flickering in his eyes. "A controlled crisis?" "Exactly," Leonard replied. "We stage incidents that look real enough to demand his intervention, disasters that escalate if he doesn't intervene. And when he does, we control the narrative, making him appear as the cause of the chaos rather than the solution." Nathan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "And what about Dr. Mitchell? Now that he's in the safe house, we've lost our leverage." Leonard's eyes darkened. "Mitchell is no longer relevant. We lost that leverage, but we still have control over the narrative. We can still turn the city against the Quantum Guardian by painting him as the source of the problem." The general's voice was firm. "We'll make sure every intervention he attempts only adds to the damage. We show the city that his power is too dangerous to be unchecked." Nathan remained silent, his eyes on the screen but his mind racing. If they keep escalating, people will get hurt. Is this really the only way? He kept his expression neutral, knowing that if he voiced his concerns, it would only be seen as weakness. The general and Leonard were both ruthless, and any hesitation would be exploited. Leonard's fingers tapped rhythmically against the table. "Our media division is already preparing a campaign. We'll manipulate footage, highlight collateral damage, and amplify the fear of his powers. The city already has unease about vigilantes. We'll make sure that unease turns to fear." Nathan stared at the screen, the faces of the city's people flashing through his mind. "They're counting on us to protect them, but at what cost?" His thoughts flickered to his own sense of duty. The people saw the Quantum Guardian as a hero, and Nathan had once believed that people like him could bring hope. But here he was, part of a plan to tear that image apart. He buried the doubt deeper, maintaining his stoic expression. The general's eyes gleamed with cold determination. "We make the city fear him, and then we introduce the solution, Project Eclipse. The suit is nearly ready." Nathan hesitated for a moment, then forced his voice to remain steady. "The Eclipse suit hasn't been fully tested. The stabilizers aren't stable, and if we deploy it without proper diagnostics, the consequences could be catastrophic." Leonard's smile was thin, devoid of warmth. "Progress demands risk, Nathan. You should know that. The city is desperate for someone to bring order, and with the Eclipse suit, you can be the one to give it to them." Nathan nodded, pushing aside the storm of doubts within. "I'll make it work. But if we're going forward with this, I need full access to the research data and a dedicated team to ensure the stabilizers function properly." Leonard's eyes met his, and he gave a single nod. "Granted. But remember, once this begins, there's no turning back. The city will become our battleground, and we will dictate the outcome." The general's voice was resolute. "We control the terms, and the Quantum Guardian falls. We'll break him, and when he falls, the city will rally behind echelon dynamics." Nathan nodded, but as he turned away, he couldn't help the sinking feeling in his chest. What if this goes too far? He wondered. How many people will suffer before we win? But he kept his face neutral, knowing that any sign of doubt could compromise everything. Leonard's voice echoed in the dim room. "This is only the beginning. Echelon Dynamics will emerge not just as a victor but as the architect of a new era." Nathan's eyes remained fixed on the city lights as he stood there, the weight of their plan settling over him. He tried to push aside the gnawing sense of doubt, the quiet voice in the back of his mind reminding him that this was not the path he'd envisioned when he joined Echelon. "Am I doing the right thing?" he wondered silently. "Or am I just another pawn in a larger game?" He walked away from the table, his face set in a mask of determination. But deep down, he knew the truth. The war against the Quantum Guardian would test not just his strength but his very soul. Nathan made his way to his private quarters, the stark, dimly lit room barely illuminated by the city lights outside. It was a space devoid of comfort, furnished only with the essentials: a bed, a desk cluttered with blueprints and schematics, and a locker containing his Shadow Strike armor. The room felt as cold and unyielding as the path he had chosen. He removed his suit jacket, revealing the tactical shirt beneath, and moved to open the locker. Inside, the dark armor gleamed under the dim light, an extension of himself, one that had become both a weapon and a burden. Memories of Ethan flickered in his mind, back when things were simple, before secrets and betrayals had fractured their paths. Just as he reached out to touch the armor, a voice cut through the silence. "Why do you hesitate?" Nathan's hand froze, and he turned sharply. Standing in the doorway was Dr. John Cross, his expression a mix of concern and curiosity. Nathan's eyes hardened, but there was a hint of surprise. "Doctor," he said, masking his uncertainty. "What are you doing here?" Dr. Cross stepped further into the room, his eyes studying Nathan carefully. "I could ask you the same. Your actions today, your hesitation, were noticeable." Nathan's jaw clenched as he met Dr. Cross's gaze. "I did what was necessary. I am committed." Dr. Cross arched an eyebrow, his expression thoughtful. "Are you?" "I've been watching you, Nathan. Your performance seemed restrained. I know about your history with Ethan Cross." Nathan's face tightened. "What of it?" Dr. Cross sighed and reached into his side pocket, pulling out a small photograph. He held it up for Nathan to see. It was a picture of a younger Ethan and his mother, both smiling warmly, a glimpse of a life before tragedy and shadows. "This is my son," Dr. Cross said softly, his voice filled with the weight of years gone by. "The son I abandoned." Nathan stared at the photograph, a wave of emotion flickering across his face before he quickly masked it. I know. You've told me before. But that was then, and this is now. Why are you bringing this up? Dr. Cross's eyes remained fixed on the photo, the sadness evident. Because it's important. You and Ethan were once friends, Nathan. You shared a vision, a hope for the future. And now, you're on opposite sides of a battle that shouldn't even exist. Nathan shook his head, a frustrated edge creeping into his voice. The General and Leonard Marshall are hell-bent on discrediting the Quantum Guardian. They see him as a threat, someone who could undermine their influence. You know that. Dr. Cross nodded, tucking the photograph back into his pocket. I know. But what they're doing, turning the city against him, manufacturing crises to paint him as a menace, it's not about protecting anyone. It's about power. They want control, and they'll sacrifice anyone to get it. Nathan's eyes flickered with doubt. And what do you want me to do about it? Turn against echelon dynamics? You know what happens to people who try to oppose them. Dr. Cross's gaze was steady, and he stepped closer. I want you to remember who you are. Remember why you became an ally to Ethan in the first place. The General and Leonard's plan is dangerous. It's built on manipulation and deception. They're playing a game with the city, and innocent lives are going to be caught in the crossfire. Nathan's shoulders tensed. I know the stakes. But what am I supposed to do? If I go against them, I become the enemy. The General doesn't tolerate dissent, and neither does Leonard. Dr. Cross's voice lowered, his tone urgent. The Quantum Guardian is a hero, Nathan. He's the kind of person Ethan once believed in. Someone who fights for the city, for the people, even when the odds are against him. But the General and Leonard want to destroy that image, to make the people fear him so they can control the narrative. Nathan felt a pang of guilt. And you think I should? What? Sabotage their plans? Turn myself into a target? Dr. Cross placed a hand on Nathan's shoulder, the gesture sincere. I think you should do what's right. You know this isn't the path you wanted. You know what echelon dynamics has become, a tool for power and control. If you continue down this road, you'll lose yourself. But you don't have to be part of this plan. There are ways to undermine it from the inside. Nathan's eyes were stormy, filled with conflict. And what happens if they find out? You know the General is watching everyone closely. If he suspects anything, if he even thinks I'm wavering, he'll come after you. Dr. Cross finished. I know. But I'm willing to take that risk if it means protecting my son, and maybe helping you find your way back. His voice softened, and he added, I know what it's like to lose sight of your purpose. I let my work blind me to the people I cared about. Don't make the same mistake I did. Nathan's expression faltered. It's not that simple. Every decision, every move I make, they're watching. I can't just walk away. Dr. Cross's eyes shone with a mixture of determination and regret. I'm not asking you to walk away. I'm asking you to think about the consequences. The Quantum Guardian is trying to protect this city, and if you continue to aid the General and Leonard in discrediting him, you're only helping to tear down what you once wanted to build. Nathan looked away, his jaw clenched, hands balled into fists. You think I don't know that? I believed in something once. Ethan believed in me. But things have changed. They always do. Dr. Cross's expression softened as he pulled the photograph from his pocket again, holding it out for Nathan to take. It's never too late to make the right choice, Nathan. The General and Leonard's plan will only lead to chaos, and if they succeed, there won't be any going back. But you have the power to change that. Nathan hesitated, his eyes fixed on the photograph, a reminder of simpler times. He took it slowly, feeling the weight of the past pressing down on him. I don't know if I have it in me to stand up to them. They've got everything planned out, and they have all the resources they need to turn this city against the Quantum Guardian. Dr. Cross's grip tightened on his shoulder. Sometimes, it takes just one person to change everything. You may not be able to stop the General and Leonard directly, but you can start by refusing to play their game. Protect the Quantum Guardian when you can. Disrupt their plans from the inside, but above all, stay true to yourself. Nathan's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. I need time to think. Dr. Cross nodded, his eyes full of understanding. I understand. But remember, Nathan, time is running out. The General is growing suspicious, and if he finds out about this conversation, it won't end well for either of us. Nathan gave a curt nod. I'll be careful. I know what's at stake. Dr. Cross let go and took a step back, his face etched with concern. Whatever you choose, just know that the path you take from here will define who you truly are. With that, he turned and exited the room, leaving Nathan alone with his thoughts. As the door slid shut, Nathan sank onto the edge of his bed, the photograph of Ethan and his mother still clutched in his hand. His mind swirled with memories of the days when he and Ethan were inseparable, when they believed they could change the world for the better. How had it come to this? He stared at the photograph, the smiles frozen in time, and felt the weight of his choices pressing down on him. What am I fighting for? He wondered. And who am I becoming? The room felt colder, emptier, as the storm inside him raged. He knew the decision he faced was no longer about loyalty or duty, it was about the kind of person he wanted to be. Would he continue down a path that led to destruction, or would he find the strength to make a stand? For now, he had no answers, only a photograph and the lingering memories of a friendship he might have to fight for once more. The next day, the sun filtered through the tall windows of Quantum Core's executive office, casting long shadows across the polished floors and high-end furniture. Ethan and Sarah stepped out of the elevator, exchanging curious glances as they approached the large double doors of Mr. Lennox's office. The summons had come suddenly, and neither of them had any idea what it could be about. As they entered, Mr. Lennox was seated behind his desk, his hands folded neatly in front of him. He greeted them with a nod, his expression serious but not unfriendly. Ethan, Sarah, thank you for coming on such short notice. Ethan offered a polite nod while Sarah took a seat beside him, her eyes scanning Lennox's face for any sign of what was coming next. Of course, sir. Ethan replied. Is everything all right? Lennox leaned back slightly in his chair. I wanted to start by letting you both know that Dr. Mitchell and his wife are safe. The safe house is secure, and they'll remain protected while we continue investigating Echelon Dynamics activities. Ethan and Sarah exchanged a quick, relieved glance. It was good to know that Mitchell and his wife were finally out of harm's way, at least for the time being. That's great news, Sarah said, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. Lennox nodded, then paused, his expression becoming more thoughtful. But there's something else, something I think you both should know. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. I received a call this morning from the Chief of Police. It seems they want to establish an official relationship with the Quantum Guardian. Ethan and Sarah remained silent, carefully maintaining their composure as Lennox continued. The Chief of Police mentioned that the mayor himself is keen on recognizing the Quantum Guardian's efforts. In fact, they're proposing a Quantum Guardian Day to honor his contributions. The idea is to have a public event where the Quantum Guardian makes an appearance, meets the mayor, and shakes hands with the Chief of Police. They want to make it clear that they view him as an ally, someone who will work with law enforcement moving forward. Sarah's eyes flicked to Ethan, her expression controlled, but the smallest hint of amusement danced in her eyes. She knew how tricky this situation could be for him. That's quite the honor, she said, her voice neutral. Ethan nodded slowly, keeping his tone measured. It sounds like a good opportunity for the Quantum Guardian to strengthen his ties with the city. Lennox nodded, seemingly satisfied with their responses. Yes, I thought so too. The mayor believes it would be a positive step, not only for the city but for the Quantum Guardian himself. By working alongside the police and city officials, he could gain more support from the public and show that he's committed to the safety of this city. Ethan rubbed his chin thoughtfully, careful not to reveal too much. And when exactly is this event planned? Lennox shrugged. They want to arrange it within the next week, but they stressed that it depends entirely on whether the Quantum Guardian is willing. The mayor said they'd accommodate his schedule, knowing he's a busy man. He paused, giving Ethan a look of earnest concern. The police chief made it clear that this event isn't just a formality. It's a gesture of goodwill, a way to build trust. Sarah tilted her head, her tone professional but with a hint of curiosity. And if the Quantum Guardian doesn't show up? Lennox's expression grew serious. Well, I'm not saying there would be immediate consequences, but the chief implied that it would be difficult to maintain the same level of public support without a show of unity. The media would have a field day speculating about why he didn't appear, and it might fuel doubts about his true intentions. Ethan nodded, absorbing the information. I understand, sir. It's important for the Quantum Guardian to keep the public's trust. Lennox smiled faintly. I knew you two would get it. I was hoping, since you've been involved with coordinating his efforts, that you might have a way to reach him and persuade him to attend. Sarah put on a thoughtful expression, playing her role perfectly. We'll see what we can do, Mr. Lennox. The Quantum Guardian is elusive, but he's always been open to working with those who have the city's best interests at heart. We'll do our best to pass the message along. Lennox nodded, seemingly reassured. Good. I have faith in you both. This could be an important turning point for the city. Imagine what it would mean for Quantum Core as well, to be associated with the hero who saved so many lives. It would be a win-win for all of us. Ethan forced a polite smile. We'll do everything we can. With that, Lennox rose from his chair, signaling the end of the meeting. Thank you, Ethan, Sarah. I know I can count on you both. Let me know as soon as you hear anything. The two of them exchanged a quick nod before exiting the office. As they walked down the hallway toward the elevator, Sarah finally let out a quiet laugh, leaning in closer to Ethan. So, Quantum Guardian Day, huh? She teased, her eyes sparkling. That's one way to keep the public on your side. Ethan smirked, shaking his head as they stepped into the elevator. Yeah, but it also means stepping into the spotlight, something I've been trying to avoid. Sarah shrugged. I don't know, it might not be such a bad thing. The more people see you as a hero, the more support you'll have when things get tough. Ethan's expression grew serious. And the more targets they'll have to aim at. The General, Leonard Marshall. They're not going to sit quietly while the Quantum Guardian gains public favor. They'll use this as an opportunity to strike. Sarah's eyes softened, and she nodded. True, but it's also a chance for you to get closer to the people running the city. The mayor, the police chief, having them on your side could give us an edge. We could get access to more resources, more intel. Ethan leaned back against the elevator wall, crossing his arms as he thought it over. You're right. But I need to be careful. One wrong move, and it could all fall apart. Sarah smiled, giving him a reassuring nudge. Good thing you've got me to keep you on track, then. We'll make it work. As the elevator doors opened, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. The stakes were higher than ever, but he knew he had an ally he could trust. Together, they would navigate this new challenge and find a way to stay one step ahead of the forces working against them. All right, Oracle, he said, smirking as they stepped out into the lobby. Let's make sure the Quantum Guardian Day is one to remember. Sarah grinned back. You know it, Guardian. In the sleek, glass-walled office of Leonard Marshall, the city lights glowed like distant stars, reflecting off the polished surfaces and casting long shadows over the expansive space. The room was meticulously organized, everything from the minimalist art on the walls to the neatly arranged files on the desk spoke of control, precision, and power. Leonard Marshall sat behind his desk, his expression cold and calculating as he watched the live feed from the mayor's announcement of the proposed Quantum Guardian Day. Beside him, the general stood, arms crossed, his eyes fixed on the screen. "Well, there it is," Leonard said, his voice smooth and controlled. "The city wants to celebrate its hero. They're giving us a perfect opportunity." The general's eyes narrowed. "It's the perfect stage. If the Quantum Guardian shows up, we have a chance to turn the city against him. But we need to be careful. We can't make our move until we're certain he'll attend." Leonard leaned back, steepling his fingers. "The mayor wants this to be a show of unity, a chance for the Guardian to publicly align himself with law enforcement. It's a clever tactic, painting him as an ally of the people, someone the city can rally behind." He paused, a sinister glint in his eyes. "Which means if we strike there, in the public eye, and show that he's not what he appears to be, the impact will be devastating." Just then, the office door opened, and Nathan Cole walked in. Dressed in a tailored black suit, his eyes were sharp and focused, but there was an edge of tension in his expression. He offered a curt nod as he approached the desk. "You wanted to see me?" Leonard gestured for Nathan to take a seat, but Nathan remained standing, his posture rigid. The general turned to face him, his gaze piercing. "We were just discussing the mayor's announcement, this Quantum Guardian Day they're planning." Nathan's eyes flicked to the screen, watching the replay of the mayor's speech. "I've heard. They haven't confirmed his attendance yet." "No," Leonard agreed, "but if he values his reputation and the trust he's built with the city, he'll show up. It's too good of an opportunity for him to pass up." The general's lips curled into a thin smile. "And if he shows, we'll be ready. We have a week to prepare, which is more than enough time." Nathan's expression remained neutral, hiding the turmoil he felt inside. "And what exactly is the plan?" Leonard's eyes glinted as he leaned forward. "We're going to use his public appearance to discredit him. The city already views him as a hero, someone who fights for justice. But that image is fragile. If we can create chaos, show that his presence only invites danger, then we can turn public sentiment against him." Nathan's jaw tightened. "What kind of chaos are we talking about?" The general's tone was cold and calculating. "We stage an attack, something big enough to incite fear and confusion. Echelon Dynamics will deploy units disguised as a rogue faction, something the public can't trace back to us. We'll make it look like the Quantum Guardian's presence was the trigger. When the people see that every time he shows up, chaos follows, they'll begin to question whether he's truly a hero or just a magnet for destruction." Leonard nodded, his expression serious. "The key is to ensure the Quantum Guardian is caught in the middle. We'll manipulate the situation so he has no choice but to intervene. And when he does, we'll make sure the damage is done, collateral damage, injuries, anything that paints him as the cause." Nathan kept his face impassive, though every word they said made him feel more unsettled. "And if the Quantum Guardian tries to protect people?" The general smirked. "That's the beauty of it. No matter what he does, he'll be blamed. If he fights, he escalates the situation. If he tries to retreat, he looks like a coward abandoning the people. Either way, the narrative will be that the Quantum Guardian brings chaos wherever he goes." Leonard's voice was calm, almost too casual. "We have the media on standby. They'll be ready to spin the story however we want. We'll release footage of the attack, edited to show the Guardian's presence as the catalyst for everything going wrong. By the time the public sees the news, they'll believe he's not their protector but their greatest threat." Nathan's eyes remained fixed on the screen, but his mind was racing. Everything Dr. Cross had said the night before came back to him. The manipulation, the deceit, using people's fear to control them. It went against everything he once believed in. And now, here he was, a key part of their plan to destroy someone who was actually trying to protect the city. Someone like Ethan once dreamed of being. No, he thought. I won't be a part of this. But he couldn't show his hand. Not yet. He forced himself to nod, keeping his voice steady. I understand. If the Guardian shows up, we'll make sure everything is in place. The general's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Good. We're counting on you, Nathan. You'll be overseeing the operation from the field. Your presence as Shadow Strike will ensure everything goes as planned. The Quantum Guardian might be fast and powerful, but you know how he fights. You'll be there to respond if he tries to stop our plan. Nathan nodded again, playing the role they expected of him. I'll handle it. Leonard's eyes narrowed, studying Nathan's face. I need your absolute commitment on this, Nathan. We can't afford any missteps. If this works, we'll have the city in the palm of our hand. But if it fails, the Quantum Guardian will be more powerful than ever. Nathan met Leonard's gaze, keeping his expression hard and unreadable. You have my commitment. The general clapped Nathan on the shoulder, a rare gesture of camaraderie. This is our chance to take control of the city's future, Nathan. Don't let it slip. Nathan forced a thin smile. I won't. But as he turned and walked out of the office, the smile faded, replaced by a mask of stoic determination. The hallway outside Leonard's office felt colder, the walls closing in as he replayed the conversation in his mind. Everything about their plan made him sick. The idea of causing chaos, risking innocent lives, and blaming it all on someone who was trying to do good, it went against every principle he once held. I won't be a part of this, he thought. Not anymore. His decision was made. He wouldn't help them. But he couldn't let them know that, at least not yet. He needed to stay close, to play along until the time was right. If he was careful, he could sabotage their plans from within, maybe even find a way to warn the Quantum Guardian. As he moved through the corridors of Echelon Dynamics, Nathan's thoughts turned to Ethan. If only you knew what I've become, he thought bitterly. But maybe, just maybe, he could still do the right thing. He would find a way to protect the city without becoming the monster the General and Leonard wanted him to be. One way or another, he vowed silently. I'm going to make this right.